Death and destruction have been the fate of San Francisco. Shaken by a temblor at 3.13 yesterday morning, the shock lasting 43 seconds, scorched by flames that raged dramatically in all directions, San Francisco is a mess of smoldering ruins. At 6 o'clock last evening, the flames, seemingly playing with increased vigor, threatened to destroy such sections as their fury had spread during the early portion of the day. Building their path triangular circuit from the start in the early morning, they jockeyed as the day waned, left the business section entirely wasted, and skipped in a dozen directions to the resident portions. As night fell, they made their way over to the North Beach section, and springing new to the south, they reached out to the shipping section down by the bay shore, over the hills and across toward the Third Townsend Street, where houses, wholesale houses, and manufacturing concerns fell in their path. This completed the destruction known as the South of Market Street. How far they are reaching.
Quoted from the Call Chronicle Examiner, this article was made after the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. By the Call Chronicle Examiner, as stated, the earthquake lasted 43 seconds and caused major destruction. Even other countries helped in the relief effort, such as China and Japan, who made significant donations of about $250,000.
At 5:12 a.m., a brief foreshock hit the city. Doors and windows rattled, and plaster crumbled from the walls. But this was just a sample of what was to come. A half a minute after the initial tremor, the real earthquake struck. The epicenter was only 3 miles off the coast of San Francisco.
The San Francisco earthquake of 1906 helped improve the new building structures and also help understand the effects of earthquakes on human structures. Because to the immense damage, loss of life, and injuries involved, architects wanted to better their technology so much an event would be prepared in the future.
The earthquake ruptured the ground surface along the San Andreas Fault for about 290 miles. It shifted the ground at an estimated 4 to 5 feet per second, and the rupture traveled at about 5,900 miles per hour. It devastated Northern California areas, including Santa Rosa, San Jose, and Santa Cruz. It ranks as one of the worst natural disasters in U.S. history and one of the most significant earthquakes of all time. In the first 19 months, San Francisco spent $90 million on reconstruction. The earthquake was so strong.
Since San Francisco is located on a fault line, there would be no way to stop the earthquake. 1906 was a perfect year to understand building technology because the human race was advancing in understanding natural disasters.
Of the earthquake was devastating, making all buildings collapse. San Francisco had no other choice but to rebuild with a different idea, the main idea being to rebuild and to make it safe and durable. Another quote by Adolphus Busch states that the most terrible thing I saw was the futile struggle of a policeman and others to rescue a man who was pinned down in the burning wreckage. The helpless man watched in silence till the fire began burning his feet. Then he screamed and begged to be killed. The policeman took his name and address and shot him through the head. Another famous quote states that in every direction from the ferry building, flames were seething, and as they stood there, a 5-story building a half a block away fell with a crash, and the flames swept clear across Market Street and caught a new fireproof building recently erected. The streets in places had sunk 3 or 4 feet. In others, great humps had appeared, for 4 or 5 feet high. The streetcar tracks were bent and twisted out of shape, electrical wires laid in every direction to proceed. These permits will identify location, name of owner, name of contractor, name of architect, if any, number of stories, construction type, cost, etc. Permits will also reveal alterations, such as the addition of a story to a house. One of the main causes of damage in the East Bay area of San Francisco was a phenomenon called liquefaction. Liquefaction happens when sand turns into a sandy liquid due to strong shaking. When the ground liquefies, it loses its ability to support any buildings and other structures. Liquefaction during the San Francisco earthquake disrupted pipelines and road networks, along with causing buildings to settle and move downslope. Buildings in low-lying areas of the Bay Area sank below water level and warped their steel frames, and in some events made them fall over. Once a building sunk, the ground solidified, trapping them underground. The fire that happened after the earthquake caused more damage than the actual earthquake. A total of 28,188 buildings were destroyed, including 24,671 wood buildings and 3,168 brick buildings. That adds up to about a quarter of San Francisco. Fires burned for 3 days and 3 nights, somewhere as hot as 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit. The Navy contributed to putting out fires by running water lines and providing water to the city's fire department. Fireproofing has evolved since then, however. Today, in construction, we use heavy wood timbers, which have relatively high fire resistance. This is because fire tends to burn very slowly inward from the surface, leaving enough sound timber in the center to prevent collapse. Wood framing can also be saturated with ammonium phosphate, NH4 2HPO4, or covered with special mastics. Stucco and other fire-resistant materials also give wood frames some protection from flames. We also have improved our earthquake detecting techniques. We now use a method similar to this. Seismic sensors translate ground motion into an electrical signal, which is processed and recorded by an instrument based on analog or digital circuits. Analog seismographs record this seismic signal continuously on smoke paper or thermal ink paper. To show how much we've advanced in this technology, over 100 years, we have found that the first readings of the San Francisco earthquake were wrong. Its original magnitude was estimated at 8.3 on the Richter scale, but recent studies have revised it to be down to 7.8. A basic reference about the earthquake and the damage it caused, geological observations of the fault rupture, and shaking effects, other consequences of the earthquake. The Launceston 1908 report remains the authoritative work, as well as arguably the most important study of a single earthquake. In the public's mind, this earthquake is perhaps remembered most for the fire it spawned in San Francisco, giving it somewhat misleading appellation of the San Francisco earthquake. Shaking damage, however, was equally severe in many other places along the fault rupture. The frequently quoted value of 700 deaths caused by the earthquake and fire is now believed to be underestimated by the total loss of life by a factor of 3 or 4. Most of the fatalities occurred in San Francisco, and 189 were reported elsewhere.
Actual damage of the earthquake and aftermath was actually underestimated in an attempt to make the rebuilding of the city more effective and quicker. To improve, we have to fall, and what makes us weaker will also make us stronger.